Welcome to the stage, founder and president of Hines Marketing, Matt Hines, and vice president of marketing at Cvent, Kate Hammitt.
How we doing?
Great. All right, hello everyone and welcome. Today we are going to talk about launching an event-led growth strategy. So you're in the right spot. I'm Kate Hammitt, VP of Marketing at Cvent, and I'm thrilled that you decided to join this session. First, because it gives me a chance an excuse to share my passion about one of my favorite topics and the most powerful growth levers an organization can have. That is event-led growth. So for those of you who are new to this concept, we're going to define that in a little bit. But first, want to give the newcomers a basically intro to our friend here, Matt Hines. Matt is a CMO facilitation leader. He is a blogger. He is an author. He is a thought leader in the marketing space. And of course, the founder and president of Hines Marketing. So Matt, welcome. He's going to kick it off for us.
Thank you. How's everyone doing? All right. This is my first Connect. This is my first time ever being here, and there is so much energy in the room and in this building. It's so exciting to see where events are as an industry, and I am super passionate about the role events play in go-to-market motions. For those of you who know me, I'm a sales and marketing guy. I'm all about pipeline, and events have emerged again as one of the leading drivers of pipeline for the organizations we work with. So excited to do this.
Awesome. So first, we're going to run through our agenda. We're going to start by defining event-led growth. We're going to talk about the key benefits, give you a little bit of research and real-world examples to show you how companies with an ELG strategy are outperforming those who are not practicing ELG. We'll be running some polls with our audience today, so get ready to give your insight and let us know how you are all deploying events in the event channel in your GTM strategy. Then we're going to dive in on how to get started. How do you go from ad hoc events, and as Matt likes to say, random acts of marketing, to launching an event-led growth motion for your organization. After that, we're going to walk through our ELG maturity model and break that down so you know how to go from square one to good to best in class. Sound good? Awesome. All right. Before we kick off, I want to make sure that everybody here is logged into the attendee app. That way you can answer our polls and you can submit questions, engage in the chat, and also access the presentation afterwards. So we have our Connect QR code for the in-person audience, so just make sure you're all logged in and ready to go.
So why do we call this event-led growth? Why don't we just call this growth from events, which happens already, and many of you are already driving. To me, this means we're thinking of events at the center of a go-to-market motion. It is not just random acts of marketing. It's not random acts of events. We can produce individual events, but unless we think about the horizontal and vertical impact of those events, how those events exist in the continuum before, during, and after as part of your marketing motion, as well as how they exist vertically relative to the people you're trying to engage, your prospects, your customers, the people inside those organizations. Critically important that you think of this as a full body of work, not just an individual event. This applies to events, big tentpole events like this, like Cvent Connect. It applies to your smaller individual executive events, things you're doing online as well. And so when you're doing this well, events become part of a broader strategic motion. I like to tell people, this isn't just a campaign, this is a culture change. This is a new way, this is a methodology for your cross-functional teams to operate go-to-market motions with events at the center moving forward.
Exactly, Matt. So let's say your goals are tied to revenue metrics. And as marketers in the room, that's what many of us are dealing with. So with ELG, you have an incredible opportunity to leverage events at every stage of your customer buying journey. So this means designing event programs that create demand and attract your prospects, that capture demand. So that's creating opportunities, helping sales win deals, and then keeping demand. So really important to have that relationship building, renewal, and expansion motion for your business. And when you're measuring growth, you can do that in many different ways. It doesn't always have to be hard line to revenue. So some of you in the room might be doing that in a different way, and ELG still applies. So your growth metric might be creating networking connections and engagement within your membership base, or getting 100% participation in your educational objectives. Deploying ELG is going to lead to consistently higher engagement with your target audience and faster growth for your organization. So if we haven't quite convinced you yet about ELG, or you need some ammo to perhaps convince others in your organization, we've got a few powerful stats from our 2025 Outlook of Events report. So here we surveyed 1,000 marketers to better understand their event marketing approach and how it impacts business goals. And what we learned was incredibly validating. So first, about 72%, so that's nearly 3 out of 4 marketers, said events are their company's most effective marketing channel. So we would love to hear from you in launching our first poll. What do you think? We would love to hear, do you consider events as your company's most effective marketing channel?
This might be a little bit of a biased audience, but I'm still curious to see what they have.
It is, I know, all fairness.
Yeah.
All right, hopefully they'll start to pop up the results. All right. So, perhaps the biased audience, but lots of absolutelys, no, but they're effective, very few, definitely nots.
I got an idea about that. We'll get there.
Well, it's great to see that most of you think that events are making an impact in your organization, and it goes beyond marketing. Companies with an ELG strategy are seeing shorter sales cycles. So 31% of those marketers reported to us that they're seeing a decrease in sales cycles by 20 to 30 days, which is huge. And 79% of those ELG organizations were able to meet their revenue goals every single quarter in 2024.
I know this isn't the general session, but 4% of you don't think your events are effective, the most effective. We should have a conversation. This isn't an official polling question, but how many of you, show of hands, feel your organization are asked to do more with less? Show of hands, like almost everybody raises their hands. I believe strongly that the event-led growth approach is going to help you directly address that. Here's some of the benefits that we've already seen in organizations that adopt this. That internal collaboration helps you do more with less. It helps you align everybody in the organization around a consistent approach to growth, not siloed efforts. It allows, by having that consistency and that collaboration and that consensus, you can have a unified point of view, and you can take more provocative point of views that don't just say something, but yet get your customers and prospects to feel something, to help challenge the status quo that they may have, that can help them create movement in their own organizations. By having a unified approach to event-led growth, you can reach the right people at the right time in their journey. You think about people that are customers versus prospects. You think about your executive level targets versus your people that are executing with your product on a regular basis. Having a more unified strategic approach allows you to reach each of those people more uniquely and with more success. And finally, it allows you to deliver better business outcomes. Like doing an event, the first thing you think about is like, how can we fill this room? How do we get the right people in this room? But more important than that is, are we driving the kind of behavior we want? My success measure of this is not to get up here and actually get through 45 minutes of content. It's to make sure as many people in this room can leverage an event-led growth motion in their organization. That is not going to happen in 45 minutes. It's going to happen based on what we inspire and what we help you think about out of an event like this. So when we think about ELG, it's not just the events. It's not just executing great events. These become real growth drivers in your business.
Yeah, and here at Cvent, we practice what we preach, or drink our own champagne, as we also like to say. And you're seeing it here. Our Connect conference is our Super Bowl. But it's not the only event we see business impact from. We have carefully crafted our own event-led growth strategy to directly tie our event programs to our most critical business objectives. Now I want to touch base with the audience again with another poll. What types of events do you execute? And you can select multiples, so we're expecting to see quite a few.
I think everyone has the Jeopardy music in their head. We don't even need to play it. You're just thinking it.
Just thinking of Jeopardy music.
It.
I like that.
Got it going.
No Alex Trebek, however.
Yes, you don't need them.
Awesome. It's quite a mix. We love to see that variety because the mix is critical to support all of our strategic objectives. For some examples, using your VIP dinners to build bottom-of-funnel relationships, those pre-scheduled trade show meetings and ancillary events where you can make the most of your target audience being in one location. And even your internal gatherings and trainings to help boost employee satisfaction, these are all great ways of tying the event-led growth methodology into your company's growth goals. All right, so Matt.
Yeah, I love seeing the diversity of the answers here, that it's not one size fits all, that so many of you are already leveraging various different event formats and hopefully tying those to different business outcomes. If we're gonna drive this as a methodology, if this isn't just the quarterly objective, if this is a real culture change, there's gonna be some work involved. And to me, these are for the prerequisites to do event-led growth. First, we start where we want to end, which is measuring what matters. And you're gonna have sort of a peel back the onion approach to measurement here, right? If you're focused on getting this event done well, getting butts in seats and getting your presenters to actually practice and get the presentation done right, that may be your initial measurement. But what comes after that? What's the ultimate measurement for the business that if you were to take a number to the C-suite or take a number to your board that they care about? So having a cascading focus on measurement is really important. Thinking about attribution more comprehensively and encouraging your organization to adopt a broader look at what's working. Right? If you're going to have a cross-functional approach to event-led growth, all of a sudden you're going to have marketing, you're going to have sales, you're going to have customer success, planning, revenue operations. A lot of people have a role in making this work. So the traditional approach to attribution, which is who gets credit, no longer applies. Everybody needs to get part of that credit. Everyone needs to align around a team sport approach to doing this. That requires culture change in a lot of our organizations. That approach itself could be a whole 45 minutes and can be scary, but is key to making this work. Also is the right technology. You can't do this well without tools like Cvent. This isn't a commercial, but if you don't have the right tools, you can't scale this to the volume and the impact of events you need to have. And the last really underlines all of this. It's internal alignment. It's ensuring you have an organization where across departments and at the very top of the organization, people are committed to doing this. Now, you can start small, and we're going to get to a point where we've got our event-led growth maturity model that you can use as a starting point. But having these things in place, I think, are prerequisites. And honestly, the hard truth becomes if you don't have a strategy for each of these, you don't have to have it all completed. But to be able to address all of these is critical to having a successful event-led growth motion moving forward.
Right, and you can commit to all of these things, but consider this session today as your official push to get started in modernizing your approach. The next big steps you need to think about to building and launching your strategy are going to include identifying those business priorities and setting goals.
Yeah, exactly. And so we want to start again with like, how are you setting your goals and what are you measuring and what impacts you? And so I'd like to get a sense for in our poll, like what are people actually asking here? So we've got a new poll. We talked about this as a team sport. And so I want to ask the question here, which of these areas do you consider your primary business objective? There is no cheating on this question. This is not a select all that apply. You can't press all the buttons on the elevator. But I want to know which is the primary business objective for you right now. This is hard because these are all good.
I know.
Yeah.
You got to choose.
All right, you got to choose. All right, let's see what people are saying here. It's pretty mixed. I guess we did have kind of a cheat at the end, right? Depends on the event. So
yeah.
The cheat one? Okay.
Yeah, so
that's
that was the cheat code.
That's
for
fair.
Some.
But I love seeing so many answers here that are about the outcome, not the input, right? Like in my world, in the sales and marketing world, like if you're generating leads, that's great. That's a great focus of a marketing organization. But I can't buy a beer with a lead. I can't pay my bills just by having people in the room here, maybe, especially if this is means to an ends kind of event. So let's talk about the importance and why you might prioritize different components of this. Again, if you have an event-led growth motion, different portions of your event might have different objectives that aren't necessarily immediately tied to revenue. Sometimes 3 steps is faster than 1 to get to where you want to go. So what are you doing to grow your database so that you have the direct attention of your prospects moving forward? I talk a lot about the concept of owned versus rented land. There's a lot of people at the trade show today that are renting land from Cvent because they don't have the audience, they don't have the database today. So a big objective for some of your events could be building that audience for yourself, really important. Thinking about how you engage different segments of that audience is important as well. Cvent does a great job of this today with in this conference with different types of events, with different sessions that appeal to different people with different roles. You've got planners, you've got hoteliers, you've got the marketers, you've got tech folks. Understanding how well you want to engage those different audiences to help them build consensus internally toward a decision becomes really important. Setting quality leads to sales, again, I would argue this is a means unto the ends, right? A lot of teams will say, our job is done when we generate sales for leads. I could argue, are those the right leads? Are they from the right people at the right companies? Are they interested in having a further conversation? But in some cases, some of your job might simply be, this event is about building the list and getting some of those people over to sales to have a conversation. It's okay to say individual parts of your ELG motion have a specific job to be done. But at the end of the day, I want to see metrics and I want to see goals that are tied to the things you can buy a beer with, that you can pay your bills with. So thinking about what are we doing to increase not just pipeline, but velocity of pipeline. How are your events helping people understand the urgency and specificity of what they need to do to drive change and move forward with you? It may be related to product adoption. If people come to an event, whether it's online or in person, and understand better the context of how you can help them and see hundreds, if not thousands of their peers using that as well, that itself becomes an objective. And getting greater retention and renewal rates, we have a company we work with where if they can get someone to their user conference, they have a 90+% retention rate. And if you can tie that directly back to those kind of metrics, imagine being able to make that connection, going to your CFO and talking through that story. I'm not saying you get a blank check, but if you can tell that story of what you've done and what happens, that makes a really big difference. So I also want to talk about mapping these programs to stages of the buying journey and the customer journey, right? So you think about this horizontally and vertically. If we think about this horizontally, you think about this as based on stages of the buying journey and customer experience. If we think about this vertically, you can think about engaging different members of the buying committee, different members of the organization as they think about this. So I want to give you a quick example from my past. So we had a client a few years ago, and they were selling church management software. Like think about ERP services like for big churches, right? The kind of companies that they think about a big church, they got to do a Sunday school check-in, donor management, all that good stuff. So we created a concept at the end of the process, at the end of the pipeline, we had prospects that were stalled, right? These are people that had already been qualified, already got a demo, were this close to buying, and somehow they were stuck. Why were they stuck? We didn't initially know. But we assumed there was something where they didn't have confidence in, something that they needed to hear about to give them confidence to move forward. So we created a program called Church Leaders Unplugged. And the audience was literally, it was opportunities that were not moving forward. And this was a webinar, and we ended up doing that in person as well. And we invited those new customer church leaders on stage and asked them uncomfortable questions. Who else did you evaluate? And what did you like about them? When you bought from us, what was that experience like? What did you like and not like in that experience? When you became a new customer, what did you like and not like about the onboarding experience? What would you want to do differently now? And what would you tell people thinking about buying to help them have a better experience moving forward? If you're a seller, you're like, why are you asking these questions? Every time we did it, we had at least 3 or 4 big prospects say, I get it. I understand that. You addressed a concern that I couldn't articulate myself. Let's move forward. Wasn't about getting the most people in the room. Wasn't about having the most impact, but about that specific audience and getting them to move forward. When you can do things like that, when you can get an event team to partner with a marketing team and a content team and a sales team, you can make things like that happen.
Yeah. And then you have to think, next step, make sure you have the right tech to be doing this segmentation and bringing your goals to fruition. So if you're not sure about the technology you need in order to effectively power your events, you have to be thinking about 4 things. And we're going to unpack this a little bit more, but it's repeatability, speed and agility, visibility, and compliance and democratization. So let's dive into that a little bit more. When we say repeatability, we're talking about the need to templatize execution, so you can easily create and replicate events as frequently as you need to. We see some of our customers doing thousands of events per year, some about 8 a day on a global scale. And they're doing this by using templates of all the reoccurring pieces of their event program. And that's standardizing their event pages and making sure that everything is standard across guest-facing touchpoints, automating integrations, analytics, and making sure that there's built-in compliance. And that kind of repeatability is going to give you that speed and agility. So that means that reduced event setup time from weeks and hours to minutes. And for us as marketers, time is money. So then you can launch an event with little or no help. So you can say goodbye to that creative team queue or knocking on the door of your marketing operations team to see if you can get some support, which ultimately is going to drive us to speed to lead, faster speed to lead, which is so critical in the modern buyer's journey. So this is going to lead us to visibility. And what we're really talking about here related to visibility is data visibility. And that's data at the right place, at the right time, customized for the right people. So the right technology platform is going to make your event data accessible and actionable for all of your stakeholders across every single event that you are running. And when you do that, you're going to be able to stop the endless cycles of one-off guest list reporting, so all your event stakeholders are going to be looped in real time. And that's going to lead to create tight cross-functional collaboration, which is so important, as we know, between sales and marketing, especially when you're doing those prospect-facing events. And that's going to drive stronger attendance rates, stronger account penetration, because the right people will have visibility into your registration data before it's too late to fill the room. And of course, visibility impacts that post-event follow-up more than anything. And really, that's where you can influence your event program's return on investment. So finally, when we're talking about scale, we have to address the need for compliance and democratization. So without the right technology, when you lean into democratization, and that is essentially making it possible for anyone in your organization to create and execute an event, if you do that without compliance, then you risk that rogue event. You risk your brand integrity, and that's going to do more harm than good. So the solution that is right for event-led growth is going to lead you to brand-approved, compliant, and integrated events that are powered by one provider. And the result is going to be those scaled programs that consistently perform. So we've mentioned integrations a few times, and there are several that provide material impact, but really 2 that are table stakes, non-negotiables. And that's integrations with your CRM and your marketing automation platform. So these systems are going to dictate how you attribute revenue growth to your events and report on your success. So Matt, take us through the next couple of steps here.
Yeah, everybody good? Anybody feel like they're drinking from a fire hose right now? I do, and I'm up here. This is a lot. This is a lot, right? If you're not doing some of this today, this is a lot. We're going to have a maturity model and some tools to help you think about the right way to position next steps moving forward. So we'll get there. Hang in there with us. I promise we'll get there. One of the next steps, I think, is assembling your team. We talked about the importance of working cross-functionally and thinking about the different groups like beyond your department to get this work done. I believe strongly not in an org chart, but in an accountability chart. Think about the jobs to be done at different stages of your event-led growth motion. And think about what things people should be doing at this point, as well as what thing your tools and agents and robots should be doing. I think it gets scary to think about AI if we don't understand the jobs it's going to get done for us. But as we start building out that chart of what needs to get done, you start building out the workflows of what needs to happen to help people across your organization understand how this gets done. It gets pretty exciting to see the things that we used to have to do ourselves, we used to have to pay people to do, that we can now have those people focused on more important, more interesting, more strategic work moving forward. And I think that's a really exciting place to be. So think about your ELG team as a combination of the people across functions, as well as the tools, technology, and AI you have to put to bear for you. And then think about your budget. This is not gonna happen cheap. You're gonna have to spend money on this. My biggest recommendation to you when you think about budget is to not think about this in terms of what you are spending, but think about it in terms of what you are buying. There's a reason I wanted you to focus on your objectives and your measurements up front. Anchor your team, anchor your organization on the impact you are about to have. And then show them what it's gonna take to get that. You are buying that impact. The last thing you wanna do is show people a spreadsheet with all these expenses. Why are we doing top shelf liquor if we could just get cheap stuff? Why are we doing local microbrews when we could just do light beers? Like, those are all interesting conversations that can shave a little money off there. But if you spend less money and fail to achieve the outcome, what are we doing? And I realize it's easy to say this up here. We're all in that do more with less mentality. But do more with less, in most cases, is still subservient to hit the number, achieve the results. And if you put that in context, here's what we need to achieve, here's the outcome we're working towards, here's what it takes to buy that.
And after you've developed your budget, you're gonna wanna take that in and think about the right cadence of events. So making it real. What are you buying? And make sure that you're mapping that out. So for each program, based on your goals, based on your historical data, which is gonna allow you to establish that programmatic calendar that the rest of your team can rely on. And after your strategy is mapped out, you are almost ready for execution. We're getting to the end, I promise. But one of your last steps, and one of the most important ones, is gonna be building out that detailed playbook for each program. Matt talked about this to a certain extent, but you're gonna want to lean into this as you would those event marketing templates that we talked about before. Those that make it easy to create and replicate your events at scale. You're gonna wanna do that for your cross-functional internal playbook, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And your playbooks should dictate what everyone on the ELG team should be doing. And that's from marketing to sales to CX to those trusted AI agents and anyone else who's gonna be involved in the event. And think about it from pre-event, during the event, and most importantly, your post-event follow-through. And the more detailed and prescriptive, the better your go-to-market teams are gonna know their role, and they're gonna be able to provide that consistent and on-brand experience to your attendees every single time.
Yeah, tell them what you're gonna tell them, go do the work, and then show that it worked, or that it didn't. Not everything's gonna work, right? There's gonna be plenty of things along this path. Part of the reason I talk about doing ELG as a culture change is you're changing the way your team operates, and that's not always gonna be perfect. And so expect that up front and quite honestly lean into it. And the importance of reporting on success frequently is it allows you to report incrementally on making progress. When I think about pipeline production out of events, I tend to have 3 stages I think about reporting. I have right after the event, 30 to 60 days after the event, and 6 months after the event. Right? And I think about that, and how you think about that might change depending on the sales cycle you have. But it allows me to say, right after the event, were we successful at engaging people there? Did we get high satisfaction rates for the event? Did we get people engaged in product demos and sales meetings that we wanted to? Did we capture enough people at the booth? Like most of those are not things you can buy a beer with, but to get to the metrics you care about, you have to nail that first, right? So thinking about that peel back the onion mentality to reporting, I think is important. And to set that expectation up front, here's the timing it's gonna take. If we have a 9 to 12 month sales process, let's not pretend the people we met at the booth are gonna close any faster than our typical sales process. But then your 30, 60 days plan, right? We captured people at the booth, we had sales conversations. If we met the right people at the right companies, did that convert into the right opportunities in our sales pipeline? And then in 6, 8, 12 months later, whatever your sales cycle is, can we show that impact, that event, and the follow-up we did, the playbook we followed, can we show that accelerated and drove this deal?
All right, now we're on to the good stuff. what we promised,
all
our
was good
framework.
stuff.
That was all good stuff, but this is the take-home good stuff.
All right.
So with years of testing and validating our own event-led growth strategy, and then with the 25 years of experience that Cvent has supporting thousands of customers in their own efforts to unlock event-led growth, we have created the event-led growth maturity model. So it breaks down the process of going from that no strategy to one that's considered best in class. Matt, will you do the honors and break it down?
Yeah, all right. So you're going to have a QR code in a minute for you to download and get a copy of this to take home. You're going to get that as a follow-up. Feel free to take pictures here as well, but I want to make sure everyone gets a copy of this. I'm really excited about this framework for a few different reasons. In our business, we focus on helping companies build predictable pipeline in complex sales situations. We have a version of this for sales and marketing teams that says, are you effective at doing that in your organization? And it's a version of saying, what are the building blocks of doing this well? And then how mature are you currently in each of these stages? Now, sometimes I get to say, we're not recording this, you could be honest. Unfortunately, we are recording this. There's a lot of people, hi, Mom. I think my mom's actually right. So we are recording this, but we all live in glass houses too, right? Even the companies doing this. I bet you if Cvent filled this out, they'd be like, yeah, there's places we can get better as well. We drink our own champagne, but we live in glass houses. But here's what we wanted to do here, is give you an opportunity to take everything we've talked about in the last 35 minutes and apply that to real time your organization. What does it look like right now? In each of these 6 areas on the left-hand side, to us, these are the building blocks of great event-led growth functions. And if you go left to right at the top, it goes from doing this completely ad hoc, if doing it at all, to being one of the best in the world at doing this. So I'm not going to read each of these cells. You can read this yourself. What I'd love to do, instead of having you, ultimately what we want to do is I want to have you circle where you think you are at each of these stages. And I want you to take this back to your team. If you're going to create a unified team approach, I'd love to have you take this to other people on your team, as well as people cross-functionally, and have them answer these questions as well. It'll be a great place to get a starting point of where you're at today and be able to move on from there. So if you're to look at this and think about your organization, think about your organization today. Again, living glass houses, real-time assessment. Where would you say your biggest priority among these 6 areas is? And we do have a poll question for this, I believe.
Yeah, it's going to
launch that poll question. So I'm very curious to see if you're here with a team member, you're doing this in the app, so you won't see your results in the app, but I encourage you to say, what did you say? What did you say? Do we align? Do we have a different idea? If we have a different idea of what's broken, why? If we have a different idea of what's our biggest priority, why? So we're starting to see some results.
I thought ROI was going to be the winner, but engagement, given a run for its money.
Yeah. Means into an ends, right?
Yeah.
The ROI is important, but if we don't feel like we're doing it well enough, if we don't feel like we're we're talking about the difference here between running a good event, having the right people in the room, and us actually know what we're doing on stage and seeing the results of coming out of that. And so means into the ends in terms of the biggest priority, this is interesting to see. And not surprising, if you can't get the right people, it doesn't matter. How many times you brag about, we got 400 people registered for our webinar. Maybe someone signed up for your last 3 webinars. That doesn't mean they're qualified. It might mean they're bored. Hi, Mom. She's retired. She goes to a lot of these now. I don't know why. So again, the right people coming, critical building block. It doesn't matter what you measure. If you give me the choice between having great measurement and highly engaged programs, I'll take the highly engaged programs all day long. Because if you're doing those well, it'll lead to the right results.
So wherever you are on your journey of event-led growth, if you're getting started, if you're looking to level up, or just want to make sure that you're truly sophisticated in your ELG motion, come to our site and take this quiz. See where you fall. And you might go back and forth in the sense that if you lose some skills on your team or something changes within your marketing organization or you're running after a different strategy, you might go to different stages and take 2 steps back and 2 steps forward in different areas. But this is free to take, and it's going to give you that insight you need to assess how event-led growth you are. And from there, you're going to be empowered to make a plan to get to that next level of maturity, and that's going to be a win for your organization and for your career. So scan the QR code or visit our resources page at cvent.com. Now, before we wrap, I did also want to share a strategic certification course on this very topic. It's our Event-Led Growth Masterclass, and it's designed to teach you how to build a revenue-generating event strategy. Gives you 18 on-demand video lessons that you can take at your own pace, anywhere, anytime. And this course is going to give you the ELG blueprint in far more depth than we covered today, so you can learn actionable skills to measure, analyze, and then optimize your event performance. Once you complete it, you're also going to be able to show off your strategic acumen and your new chops and add that new ELG certification to your LinkedIn profile. And please tag us. We would love to celebrate your masterclass graduation with you. And as a special thank you for all of you taking the time to join our session today and be here with us at Connect, we're offering a special limited time 100% off discount code for everybody in this room. That's saving you $250 off of this course. That code is Connect100. Pass it to your team. Get everybody scrubbed in on this motion. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. All right, now let's keep putting Matt to work and ask him anything. And me.
See if mom's in the question list.
Yeah, let's see what your mom
right.
puts in. All right, we have one up here. So what's the one thing, low-hanging fruit, that we can do to help shift the mindset to help an organization understand the importance of an event-led growth methodology? Thank you, Rebecca.
You said the one thing. I think there's data in the event report that you shared that you all have access to from Splash that I think shows not just the impact events are having for some of those folks, but also the before and after. It's the winners and losers, so to speak, those that are adopting this approach. I've seen this in a number of different sort of changes and methodologies, and in my sales and marketing world, as companies move from a lead-based to an account-based approach, they're seeing far greater impact on their results. And it used to be like, oh, this just seems like a good idea. There's enough people following an event-led growth motion now where you can see the difference. Those that have adopted it and seeing greater results, greater efficiency. They're achieving that do more with less. So I'd encourage you to get that data, get that report, and start sharing some of those examples and just educating your team on the impact that can have. The other thing I do is just point out the opportunity cost of not doing it well. Right? Point out that what we're doing today is broken. And I don't have to tell you this, the status quo is your biggest enemy. The way we've always done things is one of the biggest reasons why we don't move forward. We've helped some companies adopt an account-based motion to their go-to-market systems, and some of them don't quite get there because it is hard. Because it's not just, again, it's not a campaign. It's not something you alone can control. You have to have everybody else in your organization line behind you. But if you can do that, and if you can show people the impact that can have, do the math. Say, if we make this impact, here's the incremental gains we can have and convert the results in the Splash report into incremental revenue. It's no longer about a culture change. It's no longer about changing playbooks. It's no longer about the pain of that change. Anchor on the outcome. Anchor on what you're losing in the meantime by not achieving that outcome.
All right. What is a reasonable timeline to shift to an ELG strategy? Is it 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12, or 12 months plus? So I think that depends on how big of a beta you're going to start with and how you're going to basically launch your program and put those steps in place. A lot of times it's good to start augmenting a piece of your strategy. So pick that one metric that you want to change. Let's say it's more customer engagement, so you can ultimately get to expansion and renewals. Focus on that event program. Don't take the whole funnel and the whole bow tie and try to accomplish your goal. Take that one metric and make that a 3 to 6 month pilot.
Yeah, I would say to shift to an ELG approach, start this when you go home. Start circulating the ideas and the opportunity behind this. And to Kate's point, find some early adopter projects you can start with. Figure out your version of Church Leader Unplugged and see if you can get something like that going to show the impact you can have. Take one of your next events, some significant event in the near future, and think through what are we going to do in advance to make sure the right people are there? What are we going to do in advance to ensure we're engaging the right people at the right point of their engagement with us? How do we set up in advance what the follow-up needs to be. Like too often, like we're focused so much on getting the event out, so much on getting it produced. On the plane home, we're like, shoot, we should follow up with some of those leads. And that's an afterthought, right? And if it's an afterthought, it's not gonna be done. Build that up front. Build that playbook and that workflow up front. And don't worry about doing that for every one of your events. Start with one, right? Start with a component of your team. When we do this kind of work with sales teams, you don't roll out a new sales playbook for the entire team. You find one sector, you find one region, you find one team that is somehow predisposed to want to do it. And they become the tip of the spear. They become the example to show everyone else. That's how you build credibility and momentum to make this work faster. To get all the way to the right on the maturity model, first of all, that's a 12-plus month project. And second, like today's innovation is tomorrow's broken status quo. We will continue to evolve what we think works in an event-led growth motion. I think the important thing is not worrying too much about how to get to the end game, but how to start and start soon.
All right, I understand the importance of ELG, but how do I get my C-suite on board? What's the elevator pitch to grab their attention? They're old school, so this will be a good one.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on where they're coming from old school wise, but I would argue we're in a motion where if you're doing things in isolation, you're wasting an awful lot of money. If you're doing events separately from your sales motion, separate from your marketing motion, if you've got a content engine that is purely about eyeballs and reach and retweets and not thinking about integrated across your team, you've got too many people doing too many things and it costs you way too much money and you're not getting the results you want. And I can show you spreadsheets and ROI calculators all day long in any different go-to-market function that can demonstrate that. The last thing I want to do is to get into a pissing match with people about what we used to do, what we do today, what we need to do. Speak the language of the CFO. Start talking about marginal improvement. Start talking about saying, if we can get these teams to work together, yes, it will take time and effort to do that, but all of a sudden 1 + 1 = 4. Show what that could look like. Show that the impact of what you're doing today is stunted by thinking in terms of departmental siloed efforts. There's plenty of great tools from Cvent and Splash and others to be able to show. That will not be a quick conversation if you've got a team that doesn't want to do that. I had a great conversation over lunch yesterday with someone who was saying the same thing, saying, I want to be able to move forward on this. I want to be able to do better content events, but our exec team thinks we should just do the same thing over and over again. We'll start pointing out where other people are doing it well, other people in your industry. Make them, like you're jealous of it, make them jealous of it as well, and showcase how much impact, how much reach, how much of a halo effect they're getting purely online, purely in the public realm. And if they're seeing that in the public realm, imagine what kind of impact that's having for them on the back end. This is going to be a journey as well. It's not going to be a 30-minute one-on-one, but build and start that drumbeat immediately.
And I would lean on, too, the sales and account management teams. This is something that I do a lot with customers, is just selling the dream. What's the business case? And then how do you marry that art and science of events and that value and make sure that both of those things come across, that human-led experience and that unique opportunity with events with the data that you know your CFO and your CEO is going to want to see. And we do this all day, every day, so you have people to lean on to help sell the old school C-suite.
Right. One more question?
Yeah, I think we got one more.
Any more in there?
Who is typically on an ELG team? Marketing, events, sales. I have a very strong opinion on this.
Go for it.
Everybody is on the event-led growth team. And feel it here at Cvent, at Connect. Everybody is on the event-led growth team. You want to make sure that every single stakeholder is ready to talk about your events either in promotion, talk about it after, serve people at the event in terms of giving them the most value. This should not be something that marketing does in a silo. If that's happening at your organization, you need to open this up and you need to make sure that events are considered a go-to-market team strategy and that everybody's involved in what you're trying to accomplish, the pre, during, and post-event follow-up.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I think the follow-up question that Nicole may have had behind this is, who leads it? Who should be leading this initiative? I've seen event-led growth projects work with someone from any one of these organizations leading it. Sometimes it's marketing and a CMO leading this effort. Sometimes it's someone in sales who's thinking across those revenue functions. The person who is driving this forward, the person who is the tip of the spear to make this happen, doesn't mean to be the most senior person in the room. Everyone who is here, you've sat through this for 45 minutes, because you care about your company's results. You care about making sure you're using your resources best. You can start this process. You can be the tip of the spear and lead this process forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Matt, for bringing your expertise to the stage. We are all better for it. Wishing you all well in your future events, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.